For those that can't be here at this time. So we are officially recording. And how's everybody doing today? You can type in the chat or undo your mic. Did any of you watch A Class Divided yet? Please respond, either unmute or type in the chat. Have you watched A Class Divided yet? Not yet. Okay, we got one not yet. Still waiting on Noah and Caden. Have you guys watched A Class Divided yet? Are you there? Not yet. Okay. I'm going to talk briefly some more about that. But I'm going to first share my screen. Or did I accidentally close that out? Oh, it should be there. Why is it not coming up? It should come up. Just 1 second here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, this is a little better. Okay, back to our week here. I don't know if any of you watched the TED Talk yet, but she was rather interesting. If you have watched it, great. Feel free to either unmute yourself and share or type in the chat. And okay, nobody's watched Class Divide yet. Okay, she is Palestinian, Muslim, Arab American, and she has palsy, and she's a comedian. So she's got quite a few interesting stories relating to all of the above: her own culture, America, her disability, and being a comedian. And she tells some interesting stories from her life. She does it with humor. And in the past, students have found this rather interesting because she's got quite a number of perspectives that relate to sociology. So a lot of people are like that. I mean, most people, when you get into sociology and you start looking at it from all different points of view, there's times you're going to see yourself as, say, a teenager. There's times you're going to see yourself as maybe male or female or whatever, and some people other. There's time you might see yourself based on your ethnic background or racial background. There's times you may see yourself based on a personality trait or an interest or something you do for a living, like being a comedian in her case. If you have a disability of one form or another, that will be another way to look at you and how you look at things and that. So the more you get into sociology, the more you see how all these are various types of groups and things that affect people's lives, to say the least. So I think you'll find that one quite interesting. The Being 13, I don't know if any of you watched any of these and you want to put something in the chat or mention. This goes back to this, 13 is a strange age. You're leaving being a kid. You're not really an adult. You're you're going through puberty and all kinds of other changes at that time. You're trying to redefine your role in life. You defined yourself as a kid to your parents, and now suddenly it's, I kind of want to start breaking off a little bit. I want to have some more freedom. I want to be able to do some more things. At the same time, your parents are worried about you. They want the best for you. They're concerned maybe some of the things, your behaviors tend to start getting a little strange sometime at that age range. And most people older in life look back at that as a challenging age range, 12, 13, 14 years old. And so that, and then of course they tie it in with things like social media and bullying and stuff like that. And those kind of problems can be excessively bad at that age range because a lot of people are so immature that they don't realize, the harm they may be causing or things they may be doing. And also at the same time, people are at their most sensitive. They're sensitive about a lot of things they're going at. So that's a challenging age range. So I think that's an interesting documentary. Now, it was from a few years back. So some of the things they talk about in there may have changed a bit for you. And that's part of what you're right about in sharing some of your opinions about that video and some of that kind of stuff going on. Class Divided, I touched on the other day. but it's a documentary based on a true story of a teacher from Iowa who, after a lot of racial and ethnic or racial and civil rights upheavals and protests and civil rights and that, and Martin Luther King's assassination in the late 60s, decided that her small town, all white elementary school could probably use some lesson about it, especially since some of the kids were, as you see in the video, were maybe hearing and learning some things that weren't so good at home, or wherever they learned it. Might not be at home, maybe from somewhere else. And she did an exercise with them. And she broke the class, since there wasn't other groups in the class, she broke them into blue-eye and brown-eyed students. Now, some people might say, what if they got green eyes like I do? Well, they probably figured something out. They didn't go into that in there. But one way or the other, they broke the students into two groups. It didn't really matter if you call it brown eyes or blue eyes. You could have called it something else. And she had them behave a certain way. And one day, one of the groups got privileges. They got longer recess time. They were treated better. They were told wonderful things about themselves. They were told how good they were and how great they were and how they're smarter and how they're this and how they're that. And they felt good about themselves. At the same time, they were encouraged a bit, or at least tolerated, that they could put down or make fun of the other group. So they would say the other group wasn't as intelligent, or the other group wasn't as nice, or the other group liked to fight, or the other group, whatever it may be. Well, it didn't take long. People started behaving in these roles. We're talking little kids here. We're talking in a 1-day, 2-day exercise. So one group started feeling superior and putting the other group down and enjoying it, which made it even worse. And then the group that was being put down, not only did they feel bad, they started getting angry and lashing out, even to the point of one kid punching another kid at recess. So, that was day one. Then day two comes around and the teacher does the opposite, and everyone switched roles. So the group that was down the day before is now the group that's on top. They get more privileges. They get told they're better than everyone else. They get to put down and mock a little bit the other group. And suddenly they start feeling good and changing their whole attitude about everything, mostly for the better, except for the fact they were enjoying putting down the other group, which was, I don't think, very good. Then the other group got to see what it was like to be put down and made fun of and not get as much privileges and discriminated against and so forth. And then, of course, things didn't go real well either day. Then when it was all over and they were able to be done with that, the kids seemed to really be happy to be done with that. And they did learn some lessons. Fast forward 14 years and they have a reunion. And that's in the documentary in 1984. And in 1984, these kids are now adults and most of them showed up to the reunion. And they talked about, and they cut back and forth between the two, what's going on and, what do they believe and how the world has changed a little bit or not. And it was interesting hearing their perspectives as adults. So if you did the math, they probably were around 8 years old or so when they were in the documentary. And now they're, 22 years old or something like that. So they, it's interesting to see that. Then they also do it with adults. And you think, well, adults, you take one group of adults and another group of adults and they're going to handle it just fine. Well, no, they had their own issues and their own problems. But she doesn't recommend everyone do this. And there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. And the goal should be education. And this is a powerful documentary. It's a very famous documentary. And people watch it for all different reasons. We watch it for sociology. Other people watch it, for some varying reasons, about prejudice or psychology or, some related fields that you can look at for. And she does it a little different with adults. It's not quite the same. They don't take turns. One group is made dominant, the brown-eyed group, which because it's adults and they're employees of a prison, does include minorities. So there are African Americans and others that are part of the dominant group that when she does it at the prison. Then the other group that comes in, the blue-eyed group, first of all, they're brought in after the fact and they don't have as good a places to sit in the meeting. They don't know for sure what's going on. and they start getting put down almost from the get-go and start behaving badly in some cases, and because what was going on and the way it was happening. So I think you'll find that really interesting. I hope so. So those are 3 videos we're doing. You're also working on your slides. And, you know, it's not a lot of slides if you wait till the weekend or until Monday or so to do them, but, you know, you need to finish them up next week. And chapter 3 is a little bit shorter, but it's got some important notes and information in there. It's about social structure. How is, you know, what's your status? One thing you may not have thought about is you have different statuses. 1 second, you're at home and you're the kid in your family, and your status may not feel real high because your parents have the higher status at home. Then you come to, say, volleyball practice. Now that could vary. If you're one of the newer, younger, not as good players, you might not see your status as very high on the volleyball team. But if you're one of the seniors and one of the top players on the team, and maybe even a captain of the team, suddenly your status is way up there, and you're about the top of the status for the volleyball team. Then you go to class, and it could be the same type of thing. 1 class, you feel like you're one of the better students, you get more attention, you enjoy it, you feel more popular in that class, you might feel a high status for that class. Go to a different class, maybe you're not as good of a student, maybe you don't like it as much, maybe you don't have as many friends in there, or whatever it may be, and you don't see your status as very high. So that's how we all are. We all have these different statuses that apply depending on the situation. And some statuses are ascribed, which means they're beyond our control. I happen to be male, so that's an ascribed status. That's beyond my control. The way I look, my age is beyond my control. Now, a chief status would be something that comes from your efforts. So if I'm a teacher, which I am, that's because I did effort to become a teacher. I got my degree and so forth. So that's a chief status. Master status is when you look at all the statuses in your life and you stop and think, what is the most important one? Now, for a lot of parents, they will say being a mother or being a wife or being a father or being a husband would, you know, one of those would be a master status. Maybe they feel kind of both of them are a master status. For some people, it's their job. You know, I'm a teacher. That's my master status. I primarily see myself as a teacher. For many of you at your age right now, your master status might be student or son or daughter or something along those lines. Now, all roles have expectations, and there's something called role performance. So expectations is how you're expected to behave, and performance is how people actually behave. So as a teacher, I think it's fair to say there's certain expectations that I'm going to teach. I'm going to have a course. I'm going to have things somewhat organized. I'm going to provide information. I'm going to give feedback. I'm going to answer questions. I'm going to show up to work or online or wherever it is they're supposed to be meeting. And those are some expectations. Performance would be what I actually do. And I may do all those things, or I may not. Maybe I don't show up. Maybe I don't prepare lessons. Maybe I don't do things. Of course, many of you might be thinking, well, if you don't do your job, you won't have that job. And that's true. Now, roles can also be in the case of being a son or daughter, a husband or wife. So if you're, I'll just use a son, for example, an expectation at home might be to follow certain rules at home, and you have chores to do, and you're expected to go to school and do a good job at school, and you're expected to be polite to people, and you're expected to go visit your grandparents on the weekend or whatever it may be. And role performance would be if you actually do those things and they actually follow through. Role conflict is real common, and probably the group that most epitomizes that, meaning that they probably are a group that gets a lot of attention for role conflict, is mothers. Stop and think. A mother is a mother. I'm not a mother, I'm not a woman, but from all the mothers I've known, it's a huge responsibility and they take it extremely seriously in most cases. And at the same time, they are a wife in many cases, not always, but often. And they may have a job. They may be a teacher, they may be a nurse, they may be a doctor, they may be something else. And they may have other responsibilities in life, whatever they may be. So that a lot of times women feel a lot of conflict. I want to be a good mother, but I want to be able to do my job correctly, but I want to be a good wife, but I want to, do whatever, take care of the yard, cook dinner, whatever it may be. I'm using kind of some stereotypes here. And they feel a lot of conflict. Now, men may feel conflict too. I need to put in a ton of hours for my work, but my family needs me. And if I do better at work, that's good for my career, but it's not good for my family or for my kids or for my wife. And if I do good at home and take care of them and do everything, I may not be as good of an employee. So, and there's something called role exit, where people detach themselves from a previous role. So maybe I retire or I quit teaching and I decide I'm no longer a teacher. I don't define myself as a teacher. I'm done with being a teacher. People get divorced. I was at one time somebody's husband. I was somebody's wife. Whatever their previous status was, and now they're exiting that status. So that's what that is. Exchange, reciprocity, and exchange theory, and competition and conflict I'll talk about next week when we get closer to the test. I just want to touch on a few things, get you thinking about them. Hopefully you are. If you got any questions, you can put it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. Just kind of getting straight to the point here. Is the assignments coming along okay? If you guys don't mind, could you unmute at least to say goodbye and let me know if everything's okay?
Thank you, Mr. Rio.
Take care. Have a good day, Madison. Noah?
You too. Thank you.
And which Dixon is that?
Kayla.
Kayla, because I don't have my list in front of me of names. Okay. How's everything going, Kayla? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, unless you got any questions. And then we're not going to do a Zoom Monday. I'll post that up there, but you guys don't have school Monday. I may do one Tuesday. We'll see. I'll post. Okay. Take care, Kayla. Noah, everything going okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you take care, Noah. Let me know if there's any questions.
Okay.
You gotta get in on time. Get it in on time. And you have a good weekend.
You too.